somebody who might have less information than you have on a task that you have to do. Maybe Donald Trump just doesn't know all the information there is about global warming out there. That's why he thinks it's an expensive hoax.
You're following him?
I'm religious, no, I'm not. But it's very easy. Like if you think about people that might not have enough information, then you can really just tweet, like search Donald Trump, and it's amazing tweets. If you want to procrastinate a little bit, Donald Trump's Twitter account is a good thing. But coming back, I just wanted to put this here also because I think it's the study is very, let's say, basic. It's on perceptual information, but I think you should always keep in mind that maybe there's a bigger picture in which the study actually plays a role in. I will first want to talk a little bit about the background information on what the actual task was and how that is psychologically seen, how that actually works. And then I want to dive into the study in the first part, the second part, and the authors actually made a proposal with models, or with a model that they came up with on why the task is done in a, or why the outcome is in a certain way. And then I want to go into the second part of the study they did with 2 more experiments, and then I want to discuss a little bit on this. So, decision making. We all know that information is a crucial part in decision making. I think we've heard a little bit about this already. The thing is that sensory information, however, is a little bit ambiguous. In the world, like things like stimuli can be noisy, they're always not very clear if it's one thing or the other. And there's also noise in the nervous system that you might not actually perceive it very well, or also your motor output is not always 100% the same, but it's always a little bit different. And so what I brought to show this, well, maybe it's actually working in my favor this time. I brought stimuli. They are called Gabor patches. Maybe some of you know them. It's like a mathematical model where you show a certain, like you calculate a certain contrast in those stimuli, and I hope everybody can see that. Like here, the stimuli, the contrast of the stimuli is very high. You can probably also see it, and I think over here there is no contrast. It's not that you can't perceive it. There's nothing there to perceive, but maybe you already see that here. It's kind of hard to perceive. If there is a stimuli, then is not a stimuli, and that's exactly the stimuli they used in this experiment are those Gabor patches to see how well we perceive them. And so a little bit further on that, what they did is called a signal detection task, where you show participants exactly those patches to those stimuli to see how strong a stimulus actually needs to be actually detected. So what you would do is you would take those Gabor patches and you show them on the screen, and sometimes a very strong one, sometimes a weak one, and then see if the person can actually detect them. And then there's a lot of variations in how you actually do that. I got one from my old university. So the idea is that you present them, and then you have the stimulus intensity that goes from somewhere at 0 to somewhere 1, or however you choose the stimulus to be, and then you would actually plot on in what kind of percentage, in which cases you say the stimulus is present or you say the stimulus is not present. And if you would do this with a lot of trials and over again, and what you would actually get is this is one person, and let's say if it's a very weak stimulus, in only 10% of the cases he actually sees it, and if it's a very strong stimulus, then in 110% of the cases he sees it. I drew this a little bit out of my hand, but I think you get the idea. And the thing is that we already know from psychology that this is actually not a linear relationship, so it's not a line that goes through here. What we know from experience, I will not go into the history here, that this is actually what is called a sigmoidal distribution. So in the beginning, like when the stimulus is very weak, you usually don't see it, and then when it's very strong, you see it, and in the middle there's like this shift, where you go from not seeing to seeing, and this sigmoidal function can be calculated with like a mathematical model. I think in this they used what is called a cumulative Gaussian function, whatever. What this actually wants to tell us is that you want to see, or you want to have the idea at what stimulus intensity can the perceiver actually detect the stimulus. And in this kind of distribution, you say that so at a proportion of 50%, you would say that the participant sees the stimulus. You can be sure that the stimulus is there. And then you would go down here and say at a stimulus intensity of like 0.8 or something, he's very sure that it is there. And what is very nice from this kind of function is that this function actually gives you what is called the slope of the function. And the slope is deemed to be the estimate of the sensitivity of the subject. So the steeper the slope, the more sensitive is the subject. And if it's not as steep, then for example, if you're usually wearing glasses and you do this test without wearing glasses, then it's probably your contrast is lower. At least it's in my case. So I would probably not have as steep of a slope if I don't wear my glasses. So the red one would be like me without glasses, not very steep or moderately steep. And then if I put on my glasses, my perception would be a lot better. I would be a lot better at discriminating when I see a stimulus or when I not see a stimulus.
So then also on the blue sinusoid, you also see more. You're more reliable. This is why it curves also in the lower part. Because, well, you won't say that there is some signal when in fact it isn't. Because
yeah,
usually
there's a lot of, there's a lot of variation in what can happen in your perception. I mean, there's one thing that like your perception changes. There's the thing that the stimulus changes. Also, your response in the nervous system, your security, if you have seen something, could change. And there's different kind of how the slope could actually evolve. I mean, it could also be that the slope kind of goes like this, right? It could just shift a little bit to the left. And I mean, the thing is that the blue one basically draws a line where he somewhere says, so this is all not I don't see anything here, and here I see something, which is actually not true. I mean, there's also something here. I mean, you also don't want to have this, right? This doesn't make sense. That you're very good at perceiving very, very weak stimuli. I mean, there's a lot of it, and I don't want to get too much into it because it's confusing enough as it already is. I'm with the